Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today, and in today's video I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P 500, including the economic calendar. Now I do post these videos up daily, so I highly encourage you to double check the latest video on my channel so that way you get the most up-to-date information. And a couple updates in terms of, for example, the US East Coast ports. The strike has ended, so there's that. And then in terms of tensions in the Middle East, that is still ongoing. I'm expecting tomorrow, based off the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month MAC line, potentially to go up based off of the MAC lines and the news. But the thing is, though, technically you could argue that the US East Coast ports, them striking, wasn't fully baked into the market fully. So there's that. But in terms of the 1 year charts for the S&P, Dow Jones, and Nasdaq, which I'm going to show soon, and then levels and all that stuff, is showing continuation downside. But if it's committed more so on Friday that we end up getting lower, then in my opinion, the 1 year chart showing downside and continuous downside coming is more solidified in that case. But first, before I get to the charts fully, I'm going to go over the economic calendar. And for Friday, October 4th, 2024, at 8:30 a.m., we have U.S. non-farm payroll for September, as well as U.S. Unemployment rate for September, U.S. hourly wages for September, and then hourly wages year over year. Now at 9 a.m., we have New York Fed President John Williams gives opening remarks. And then at 10 a.m., we have Chicago Fed President Austan TV appearance. Now, in terms of the charts, just to visually show you potential downside, this is the S&P 500, looking at ETF SPY, ETF for the S&P 500. We have an upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010, upward trend support level, and then major crashes down here, upward trend support level that there's only 2 touch points, but we'll see when the third major one happens. Will it actually bounce off this level? Who knows? But till then, let's go for the 1 year chart just to show you that the trend is potentially committing to the downside. Now, here was the all-time high previously back in, let's say, give or take, of Friday, September 27th of 2024. And we've been pretty much heading down. And then this MAC line indicates if we're in a bearish or bullish movement. And currently, right now, it looks like it might be committing to the bearish movement. To me, in my opinion, I would wait until tomorrow, see how the market takes the port strike ending news. If it's not enough to move up the markets, and it's not enough that the 1 year, the 1 month and 3 month and 6 month MAC lines are potentially going, if not already in the bullish movement, but crossing over to the bullish movement, then I think this trend to the downside is more committed to the downside, in my opinion. Now for the Nasdaq, I'm still going to go over through other levels, but just quickly going through the similar levels. But for Nasdaq, ETF QQQ, ETF for Nasdaq. Again, both these ETFs are the exact same thing, just different ratios for the respective correlations. And 1 year chart MAC line showing crossover to the downside in terms of bearish movement. And then here is, let me just show one thing that is important in case you're a new viewer. The same thing as the S&P, but it's for Nasdaq. There is an upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010. There is an upward trend support level dating back since 2010. But for the Nasdaq, it's a little bit different. It actually did break through that resistance level in 2020 to 2022, came back underneath, bounced off as support as well too, not just acted as resistance, but support as well. When it came back underneath, had issues passing it in March of 2024, give or take. And then it did pass it in July of 2024. All of them, Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P created all-time highs during this time. The only thing is, though, the Nasdaq is the only one that did not retest that high and pass it when the S&P and Dow Jones retested their July all-time highs and did pass it and created new all-time highs. The reason why I'm stating that is because, for example, is the Nasdaq, it is at a critical level. This line right here is that upward trend resistance level dating back since 2010. You can see we had issues passing it, false breakout, issues passing it, and then this is pre-market after hours, false breakout. During opening bell, it was above it, but it came back down, and you could see clear resistance knockdowns. Now, my lines are not perfect, but you could see that clearly there is resistance. So the reason I'm stating this, like I stated, was because since we're at a critical point technically for the Nasdaq, that upward trend resistance level dating back since 2010, clearly there was resistance, right? Mind you, the market was still going up. Being at this level, plus the S&P and Dow Jones being at the all-time high zones. Here's the S&P, here's the Dow Jones, all-time high zones. Then technically, this downside pull down with the 1 year chart that I just showed, MAC lines, right about here, 1 year chart, could be fully committed to the downside. Again, we'll see. I would say give it at least, I want to say 1 more trading day just to see, but it could be 2 trading days because, again, there is tensions in the Middle East and all that stuff. But we'll see. But will it be a crazy pullback? No, I don't think so, given that it's election year, right? For example, the strike could have ended early because some government stuff steps into. I know strikes, when they get too long, the government tends to step into as well. So given it's election year, some things might be done earlier to resolve things, right? Now, in terms of Dow Jones, here's the MAC line, and it's crossed over to the bearish movement. So the S&P and Dow Jones have crossed over to the bearish movement. The Nasdaq is the only one, but now the Nasdaq is the tech sector. So sometimes we have some of the tech stocks move up dramatically, and that could help it to not push down to the downside. But nonetheless, in my opinion, I think it's going to cross down to the downside. But we'll see. Tomorrow, again, based off the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month MAC lines for the S&P, Dow Jones, and Nasdaq, they're kind of showing up either bullish movement already for some of them or about to cross over to a bullish movement. Plus, technically, the good news of the strike has ended. But again, you could argue that the market pretty much couldn't really bake in anything, because if it did, it would have been a more drastic drop, in my opinion. And at the same time, it was so short-lived that there's no real impact, right? There's that. Now, in case if you're wondering what is that level for the Nasdaq, if we were to get to that 2010 resistance level, mind you, we closed at $481.59. And if we were to get to that level, you're looking at somewhere about $492 and some change. And the thing is, though, mind you, you still have to go through all these moving averages, resistance levels, and so on and so forth. So there is quite a lot to go out to the upside. It's not going to be pretty easy to get to that 492 and some change with the upward trend resistance level. Plus, you got to account for false breakouts too, right? This false breakout went up to 493, 495 from what I can remember, and clearly came down and then tested it multiple times and during the pre-market after hours, or after hours pre-market, and could not pass it. And then during the opening bell, retested it again, came back down regardless. So there's that. That's basically it for today's video. If you do like it, consider dropping a like. It does help the channel, so thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. If you want to be notified when I upload my next video, consider following and subscribing so you'll be notified when I do. And thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. Take care. God bless and peace.